So drummers think that they need some insane amount of level of chops and to put in so much effort practicing, putting a lot of hours of practicing to actually sound good, but I don't think they do. There's this framework that I've followed for the past 5 years that has helped kids, students transform their playing, and it's also transformed my playing. And it really got me out of this rut that I was in that didn't want to practice. I didn't want to get better. I didn't want to do anything. So this system is really rooted in two things: musicality and fundamentals. And it sounds obvious, but I think drummers tend to always forget that we are musicians, and that there's other musicians that have gone through this struggle. So really really trying to piece together a lot of the missing pieces that we kind of skip as drummers is really keen to kind of progressing. So the big issue that we have as drummers is that we're very visual based, right? Especially for me, I hopped into drumming because of the visual aspect of drumming. So you know our hierarchy is visual, right? How we look, how if everything is matched, and all these different things. Compared to musicians, instrumentalists. Like if I say musicians, it's like instrumentalists, wind instruments, or even string instruments. Really rooted in sound. So they really focus on sound as top of the pyramid. And that really is the biggest difference with drummers and musicians, right? Very visual based, and instrumentalists and musicians are very sound based. Okay, so this core shift that needs to happen for us drummers is that we really need to consider ourselves and really put in to the circle of musicians. So musicians first, and then drummers second. And this mindset shift really changes how we practice, how we play, and honestly how we sound. And that's the biggest thing. So these three things that you just really need to focus on as kind of this new musician drummer hybrid. So step number one is just really focusing on our sound. And we really have to really note that our hands don't make the music, our sound does, right? If we go through all the three branches of drumming, or all three kind of big genres of drumming, which is marching, orchestral, and drum set playing, all three, with the exception of marching just a little bit, is very sound heavy, right? So if we're thinking about orchestral playing, when auditions do roll around for orchestral drummers, they're really auditioned by a blind audition, right? There's a screen. You don't really get to see what their heights are. And the panels are usually not drummers or not percussionists. It's usually a bunch of other instrumentalists that have used their background to kind of dictate what sounds good in that percussion landscape. So and then drum set, if you think about like being in a band, like usually in the back, or if we're thinking about in some sort of play, like we're in the pit, usually like in a box or in the dark. So it's like all these different things like really point to really focusing on our sound, but it's just really something that a lot of drummers just never get across, and I think it's the most important thing. And then number two is going to be our ear, right? Really developing our ear and really start listening and really adjusting like a musician. Train your ear like other instrumentalists train their ear. It's really hard to know what is a good sound when we're playing on drums, because it's so easy to make a sound. Like I've already made this comparison in earlier videos, but it's just like the sound that we can produce on a drum is like a baby can do it. Like they can just grab a stick and hit the drum, and sound will appear. But if a baby tries to make a sound on a flute or a trumpet, that's going to be 10 times as difficult as making a sound on the drums. So because of that factor, it's really hard to kind of dictate what is a good sound or what is a bad sound on a drum. So really, really developing our ear to what is a good sound, not even on a drum, but like a good sound, what makes a good sound, is really keen to our development. And then just really understanding how to make like a good sound, and how to make a bad sound, and how good and how bad. If we have this radar of good and bad, then there's going to be a really good indicator of how other people will perceive that sound. And if you're playing with someone, like really developing your ears to balancing between like a percussion ensemble or like a band, right? You don't want a drummer that overplays the singer or overplays anything important. It's like the drummer in every sort of scenario is always just the color or the battery of the heartbeat of everything. So really using your ears to really help you and really adjust to other musicians is going to be very, very, very important. Cool. And our last thing is going to be the system, right? The system is going to be in terms of how we get better and how we develop our sound and develop all of our habits. If we think about our system, it's not really a system that needs more things, right? When we think about a system and we actually think about practicing, I think, especially for me, I can speak from experience, is I used to always just learn things and always learn like really hard things to kind of expand my vocabulary, but I just never really got better. I was just like learning all these things and like overloading myself with like things that I couldn't play instead of actually like focusing on my sound and focusing on the things that actually matter. And you need a system that isn't built for that. And you need a system that is built for musicianship, like the things that musicians really take importance, which is like tone and like intonation. And like if we really think about those things in our drumming, and we really are like really nitpicky about our sound, then the things that we learn based off that is just going to be like our foundation is built so well, to kind of play anything that we want. And you just want one place to grow your sound, to grow your ears, to grow your fundamentals. And it really just is built on awareness, right? Awareness of how we feel, right? If we feel good, then it's probably going to sound good. If we sound good, then it's probably going to be heard from other people, really good. And awareness really stems from really asking yourself questions, like whenever I practice, I always have like questions that I have out that, if I go through something or I just take notes and like Cornell note style, where if like you have notes on something you worked on, then you just kind of work backwards of like, okay, how did I get there? How did that practice go? What are my strengths? Like, is this a strength that I'm working on, or is this a weakness? Just really like asking those questions, I feel like is really important. And how you structure them is going to be really important, because if you're always working on your strengths, then your strengths are going to get stronger, but your weaknesses are going to be left behind and kind of not ever worked on, and they're going to get weaker. So those are the three: the sound, your ear, and then the system that is created through all this. If you really work on those three, you'll be ahead of so many drummers, because, like I said earlier, it's very visual based, and I was stuck in this rut for a bit, and it just really exponentially grew my playing. So if you check in the description, I'm building a program that is really focused on these kind of big ideas, and obviously getting better at drumming itself. But if you really resonated with this, then just check the link below and book a free strategy call so that we can maybe hop on a call. But if not, then I will see you later. Thank you.